Periscope friends and replay viewers, thanks for joining us. I am here for Singing Tips. Hello everyone, I'm here for another episode of Singing Tips. It's New York vocalist Benita Charles. Hello to all my Periscope friends. Every week I give, we have one person join, hello there. Every week I give singing tips to beginner singers and help them to become professional singers. So we are on tip number 19. Can you believe it? Hello, is that Diane C? Hi, how are you? You're listening to my, oh, thank you. Wow. And where are you from? Am I saying your name right, Diane C? Oh, you love I Think I'm Falling for You. Oh, thank you. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Wow. Where are you listening to that on? Are you on SoundCloud, or are you on, how are you listening to that? On iTunes? Apple Music. Okay. Well, thank you. Are you a singer as well? But, yeah, so every week I give singing tips to beginner singers. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, if you sing in your shower, you're a singer. But, every week I give singing tips to beginner singers to help them to become professional. Oh, thank you for the hearts. I really appreciate it. Today I have a special show because I have a special guest. So she is my first special guest. I will be having more, but I'm very thrilled to have Minister Angela Williams today. She's a minister from Florida, and she will be giving us a few words shortly. But before we bring our special guest on, I'd like to get into the show. So every week I give beginner singers tips on how to become professional. Just to give you a little bit of background about this, I saw a movie in 2014 called Get On Up. Now this was the James Brown story. Now I don't know if you've seen this movie. If you haven't, you need to. And I'm going to talk about this movie until I make it popular again. It was a wonderful movie. The star of the movie was Chadwick Boseman. It also had Viola Davis, Jill Scott, Dan Aykroyd. So it was an all-star cast. But there was something in the movie. James Brown he made this statement that this is show business. There's a show part and there's a business part. And that's stayed with me because I never thought about it that way. All these years, I've always just focuses on the show part, my singing, my voice, singing in front of people. But there's a business part to this if you want to make money, and you need to know that. So I'm going to take these singers from the show part to the business part. Right now we're in the show part, but we will be getting to the business part because that is how you make your money. And you need money to survive. You need money to sustain yourself. And you can't afford to have a hobby where you're not making any money. But this is your gift. This is something that you should be sharing to the world. You should be compensated. So that's the whole idea of how I'm designing these singing tips. There is a method to my madness. We're going from your talent to business. The show business. But right now, we're in the show. Now, the first 10 tips was all about your talent. That's your foundation. You can't do anything if you don't have your voice together. So we talked about what you need to do to get your foundation together. Now, the next 10 tips, and now we're on number 19, so we only have one more tip in this series. But these tips are all about performing in front of an audience. So you've gotten your talent together, and now it's time to get some experience because you're going to need that experience if you want to get work as a singer. So tip number 11 was for you to sing in front of an audience. Tip number 12 was protect your voice when you sing. Tip number 13 was how to handle technical difficulties. Tip number 14 was performing with a live band versus using performance tracks. Tip number 15 was engage your audience. Tip number 16 was how to stay motivated when the going gets tough. And tip number 17 was equipment that every artist should have. Last week we talked about performing with a live band. So today, in conjunction to what we talked about last week in terms of performing with a live band, I would like to say this week's tip is always have a set list at your performance. Now you may wonder, why is she saying that? I mean, some people don't really think it's that important, but I would like to share with you my experience of why I think it's important, because I've seen firsthand what happens if you don't have a set list and the momentum is going and you just performed your song, the audience is loving it, the audience is dancing, and then nobody knows what's going to happen next. People are looking around, well, what's the next song? Meanwhile, the audience is standing there like, what happened? What just happened? The music just stopped. No. If you had a set list, everyone would know what the next song would be. When you practice your songs, you would have worked it out where you had one song segue into another. Because sometimes that's good for continuous music. Or, you know, at least if the song ended, you know what comes next. Everyone knows what happens. And I'm a stickler for it. I mean, it helps with the show of the flow, the flow of the show. It just keeps the momentum going, and also everyone looks like they know what they're doing. I've seen it so many times where people are looking around dumbfounded, like they don't know what's happening next. It doesn't make you look professional as a band. No, everyone should know what's going on. That set list is your list, and everyone's crystal clear, and it makes you look more professional. The audience is happy because they're still dancing. Now I would like to just say one thing for this point: keep it flexible. I'm not saying you have to have a set list and that's it, you can't change it. No, you don't want that either, because if you have, let's say you planned, you have a high energy song, and then the next song you plan, you said, oh, let me just take it down. But the audience is still wanting to dance. You don't want to change that. You don't want to change that momentum. So you may have to adjust your set list to say, and this has happened to me before, I've said to my musicians, they think one thing is going to happen, but I'll say, can we play such and such, because I think this is a better song. And 99% of the time, when I made that decision to either change it for the flow of the audience, it kept the show going. It made the show better. Had I had just stuck with my list, it may not have went over well. So keep it flexible. I'm not saying you gotta have this list and it has to be exactly this way and you can't change it. No, but I'm saying is, for the most part, you will probably keep the set list as is, unless the room changes. Also, if you're on a gig where you do a variety of different music, like corporate gigs and special occasions, I found with the set list, it helps to keep the same like songs together. For instance, if you have Motown songs, or if you have the jazz set, the lounge set, or if you have disco, it kind of helps to keep those songs together, because a lot of times they're in the same vein, they're in the same feel. But I'm just saying, have something. Don't go there empty-handed, because there's nothing worse in the world. Everyone's standing around not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing what to do. It just doesn't look professional. And for me, it doesn't make me feel good as a performer if I'm standing there in front of the audience like I don't know what I'm doing. So that's this week's tip. Always have a set list. I hope that these singing tips are helpful to you. Every week, I try to bring some value. As I stated before, these tips that we're talking about now is all about singing in front of an audience. And with that said, I would like to bring on my special guest today. Today we have Minister Angela Williams from Deerfield Beach, Florida. And she is a Senior Director of Customer Service Operations for a publishing company. But she's also a minister, and she ministers to women and children particularly. She's the president of the women's organization, Women's Auxiliary for Florida East Coast Baptist Association. It's the largest association in Florida. It's the 4th largest in the nation. She have a ministry to girls. She's the founder of A Girl and Her Pearls. And we are so honored to have her here today. She's going to share with you some words of wisdom for you. Because we have a lot of non-singers here, so I would like to address the non-singers. So, Minister Angela, please take it away.
Thank you again, Benita, for having me here with you. And being your first guest is like, yay! Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here. Wasn't expected to share anything while I'm on my trip here in New York visiting friends, but it's always a pleasure to share a word of encouragement to anybody. And I know that all of your viewers are not singers, so no matter what your profession is or what you're pursuing in your life to become or to do, this word will be for you. A few weeks ago, I picked up a new book by Max Lucado called Grace for the Moments, and it's the 2nd edition, and I started reading it, and I was led by the Spirit to go back, even though it's dated. I bought it in August. January through July had already passed, but I went back to January, and there was a devotional for the first day of January of this year that really blessed me tremendously. It just resonated in my spirit, because one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible that has spoken to my life, has sustained me through every situation, every trial, every obstacle, just even to encourage me that I could do great things, is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, I know the plans that I think towards you, saith God's plans to prosper you, to give you hope and expected future, plans not to harm you, but to help you. And so that scripture, Jeremiah, has just blessed me through so many things. So when I read this particular devotion, it just resonated with me because of my position with Jeremiah. And the devotion was called Pre-Packed for the Journey. And it talks about everything that we need as people to do what God has called us to do, to be what we've been predestined to do. God has already given us all the tools, all the resources, all the people to do what we need to do. And he gave us it in the beginning because he already knew what the end was going to be. So everything we needed. So as we're walking out destiny in life, everything we need, God's going to give it to us. We just have to do our part by seeking him and by, finding out what it is. And some of that curiosity that you have going on inside of you is because destiny is trying to be birthed in you. Destiny wants to get out of you. Destiny wants to be fulfilled in you. So God gave you that thing inside of you that makes you curious about music, if you do want to be a singer, or writing, if you want to be a writing. Or maybe the reason you like to write because there's a book inside of you. Maybe the reason that you like to write because there's a play or production inside of you. But everything that you're experiencing, it's for a purpose. Even sometimes the things that we see are bad, God has given them to us so that they can help us, push us, and move us in the direction that he wants to go. He wants us to go. So as I read this devotional from Max Lucado, it said, pre-pack for the journey. Everything that we need, God already gave it to us. It's either in us or it's on the journey, but we have to seek it out and find it so that we can fulfill the plan that God has for us. One of the, I met Benita last year at the Activate conference. It's going to happen again in a couple weeks. Activate's happening in Washington, D.C. But last year I closed the conference with what we call the benediction, but it actually was the commencement message, because we've been in Activate for 3 days. We learned all this good stuff, heard all these great speakers, been inspired. But what do you do after you hear all that good stuff? That's like high school graduation. They teach you, and they all these tests, and they prepare you for the commencement exercise on the day of your graduation, because it's now the beginning of the rest of your life, and you've got to go do something with it. And in that commencement message, I spoke out of John, the 17th chapter, the 4th verse. very strange scripture that I stumbled upon last year, where we find Jesus, you know, Jesus, the Son of God, speaking to his Father and saying to him, saying, Father, everything you gave me to do, I've completed it. Everything you entrusted into my hands, I've done it. Jesus was giving an account of his stewardship to the Father. The Father knew everything that he'd already done, but Jesus was giving an account to God, telling him, everything that you gave me to do, I've done it. And he was at that point getting ready to go to the cross, and he knew what was ahead of him, and he was even willing to take the cross upon him that our destinies might be fulfilled. So Jesus died a violent death on a rugged cross that you might fulfill your destiny, and you will be able to one day give an account to the Father that everything, hallelujah, that he had for you to do, you did it, you fulfilled it, because you knew that you were pre-packed for the journey. So be encouraged, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've already done, no matter what you're experiencing. What you want to fulfill is right up the road if you keep pressing your way. So thank you again, Benita, for having me today. I'm so excited about that word. I just got encouraged all over again that God pre-packed me for the journey, and I'm on my way, and I'm going somewhere, and I know that I am great because God created us for greatness.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Minister Angela. And we have a person here, she says, I'm inspired.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
she said hello to you.
Thank
and to
you.
Preach. So
Awesome.
she was inspired. Thank you so much for listening and for your comments and your hearts. And, you know, it lets us know that you were inspired, we touched your life. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm doing these singing tips for beginner singers, but I know I have a lot of people who aren't singers. And that's why it was so important for me to have Minister Angela's message that it's already for us. If you don't know what you want to do, keep looking, because it's there. The clues are there. Just live your life and keep trying, keep striving. Just try things. If you know what it is that you're supposed to do, just know that God has everything you need to fulfill that dream. So stay on this journey with me on Singing Tips. We're going to go from the show business to the business part of the business. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at BCM Sings. Also, you can find me, Benita Charles, on Instagram as well. If there's anything you'd like for me to cover, just let me know. For any of the other tips that you'd like to see, go to the Instagram account, click on the bio, and all of the singing tips is archived there. I have my notes as well as the videos. I'm also on YouTube, so you can go on Benita Charles on YouTube. There's a singing tips playlist, and all of the singing tips are there. So if anything that you want to see is there. But thank you so much for look at that. Look at the hearts. This is what they give us.
Awesome.
So thank you so much, everyone. You have a wonderful, blessed day. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week for singing. Thank you. Got a smiley heart there. You enjoy yourself, dear. Take care.